last 24 hours. Powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.
Good morning, and Agitn Chanukah. Today is Thursday, the 4th Lechel of Chanukah, and it's Chuf Ches Kislev Tuf Shim Pai Vuv Pashas Mikayitz. On Edge, December 18th, 2025. Lemespura, my name is Gershy Schwarcz, and I'm your host on Edge. Now, we have a lot to unpack today. 7 suspected Islamic terrorists were arrested at gunpoint in Sydney today, while American President Donald J. Trump addressed the nation last night, making his case why he is the best president America's ever had, and Governor Tim Walz is in deep trouble, while, because the Trump administration has basically urged him to resign. AOC and Gavin Newsom are suddenly leading J.D. Vance in a 2028 poll. And at the same time, Tucker Carlson flew to Qatar, a Jew hater, to praise Doha and Qatar and push his anti-Israel agenda. And Charlie Kirk's widow sat for 4 hours in a meeting with Mrs. Owens, Candace Owens, listening to her conspiracy theories about who is really behind her husband's murder. Brown University is still hunting for the campus killer. Israel is facing Iran, Hezbollah, and a huge new deal in Mitzrayim. And Putin is preparing for another year of war, while Zelensky is willing to make peace but won't give in. Rates are being cut 4 times this year in America, and in the UK, rates are being cut too, to a 5.1 magnitude earthquake in Taiwan. Now, that and a lot more. But first, do you have an anical, a child, a parent, or any family member or friend in Eretz Yisrael? You want to send them something, right? Now for Chanukah, a babka, a platter of herring, or some donuts, or some chocolates, from Meir Shorim, the special ones, but you cannot reach your third cousin once removed or fax the order to the store owner's uncle. So I'm here to say, Bench JLM. BenchJLM.com puts all those wonderful stores and even private sourdough sellers into one marketplace, and it gets delivered straight to their door. A heimische Uber Eats, just way better. So go to BenchJLM.com and use code EDGE for free delivery. Bench JLM. Police in Sydney say they may have stopped a violent attack today in Liverpool, which is not in England, Liverpool in Sydney, Australia, in the city's southwest. Police in Sydney arrested 7 men they suspect were getting ready for a serious Islamic terror attack in Australia. Heavy armed north-south, I would say, NSW police it's North-South Wales, I think. Yeah, tactical police officers intercepted vehicles at George Street and Campbell Street. Remember those street names? Because I mentioned them during my report about the Sydney Bondi Beach attack. And they crashed into a white hatchback with Victorian plates, causing a crash, then pulled the men out and cuffed them at gunpoint on the floor, on the sidewalk. Police say 7 men were taken into custody and are assisting with inquiries, and nearby businesses and primary schools were briefly locked down as a precaution. Witnesses say some of the men look like Middle Eastern, but police have not released identities or confirmed backgrounds. Police say they deployed tactical units after information came in that a violent act may have been imminent, but no charges have been laid, and police say there is no ongoing threat right now. So some media reports claim that men were heading toward Bondi Beach and may have been armed, but police have not confirmed that, and they have not said if any weapons were found. This comes 4 days after the December 14th, 2025 Erev Chanukah terror attack at Bondi Beach during a Chanukah celebration event with Chabad, where a father and son inspired by Islamic State, ISIS ideology, killed 15 Yidden, 15 Kedoshim, Hashem Yinkendumam, and injured dozens more. But police say there's no known link between the 2 cases. A big Ukraine war conversation could be happening in Miami this weekend, December 20th and 21st. President Trump is sending his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and envoy, his shliach, Steve Witkoff, to meet with Kirill Dmitriev, a close ally of Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. And now the Kremlin is openly confirming Russia is getting ready for these contacts with the United States about Ukraine. And like we said yesterday on Edge News Report, Putin is warning if Kiev doesn't accept the American plan very soon, Russia will try to grab even more land by force. Zelensky is saying a pullback from Donbass is not acceptable, and other reports say he's also telling people there is no final peace deal agreed yet, and he wants real security guarantees. Miami peace talks, in other words, same humidity, just different kind of pressure. Okay, getting a backyard swing set sounds like one of those "we're doing this" ideas that turns into "let's just go to the park" real fast, right? You check the prices, you measure your backyard, and you start doing math you didn't agree to. I'm here to tell you, swing it. Swing it builds real outdoor playsets, like your backyard becomes the park, the playground. Don't wait for the summer rush. It's never too cold for a Metzia, right? And special for my on-edge people today, Swing It now offers financing, payment plans, tashlumim, a soft credit pool, like I said yesterday. No hit to your credit, simple. It's a very fast approval. So, you stop hearing, I'm bored every 9 minutes, right? Go back to the ad again, you'll show them the number on the screen, and you finally get your egg chair back for you, not for your kids. And the kids get to swing it, not your egg chair, like I said. Okay, swing it, the playset. Call 1-833-752-9738. Again, 1-833-752-9738, and say on edge to set up a payment plan and get your kids to swing it. 4 male narco-terrorists were killed in a U.S. strike on a boat in the Eastern Pacific. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says the U.S. hit the vessel in international waters on Wednesday, December 17th, yesterday. U.S. Southern Command says intelligence showed the boat was moving along a known narco-trafficking route and was actively running drugs. They also say no U.S. forces were harmed. Other reports say this was the 26th boat strike in this campaign, with at least 99 people killed since early September. Some say that deportations to Venezuela have temporarily stopped until, I guess, the fighting stops or whatever, the tension stops or calms down in that region, and they're asking Mexico to take them in. We'll see what happens. Okay, a top MIT fusion scientist was shot dead inside his home near Boston here in the United States. And now Israel is looking into whether Iran was behind it. Professor Nunu Loureiro was shot Monday night, December 15th, in Brookline, Massachusetts, and he died the next day. A report in Israel says officials are reviewing intelligence that points to Tehran ordering the hit tied to his work. But American investigators have not named a suspect, and they have not given a motive, and there is no official U.S. finding yet blaming Iran. Israel just approved the biggest gas export deal in its history. About $35 billion worth of natural gas going to Mitzrayim, Egypt. Prime Minister Netanyahu signed off on the export permit, and the gas would flow through 2040 or until the contract value is met. Netanyahu called it a historic milestone, saying it strengthens Israel's economy and helps keep the region stable. The deal is tied to gas from Leviathan Field, I think it's called, with Chevron and its partners involved as well. And today, Egypt's State Information Service pushed back on the politics, saying it's purely commercial, done between private companies, so it has nothing to do with, Another huge investment in Israel, NVIDIA, one of the richest companies, says it's building a new major campus up north in Kiryat Tivon near Haifa. NVIDIA has just looked at Israel and said, yeah, we're going to need a bigger office. Reports say it's planned at about 160,000 square meters, and it could fit up to 10,000 employees. Basically, Israel's biggest high-tech campus. And the reason is simple. NVIDIA says Israel is packed with engineering talent, and it's already their biggest R&D center outside of the United States. Other reports say NVIDIA is also moving ahead with major data center expansion in Israel as part of this bigger push. Speaking of deals, Germany just approved a big add-on to its Arrow 3 missile defense system, bought from Israel, for about $3.1 billion more, taking the total package to roughly $6.7 billion, Israel's biggest defense export sale ever. Arrow 3 is combat proven many times over, and it can knock out ballistic missiles high above the atmosphere in space. Threats from who? Well, Germany isn't naming a single enemy in the contract talk, but officials have pointed to growing fear of Russian missile threats as a big reason they want this system. Okay, you could soon face criminal charges in Israel for disturbing a public davening, a public minyan service, or tefillin stand, putting on tefillin in the streets, if you disturb them, or if you, basically, you mock them, or protest them, let's put it that way, while they're davening. The Knesset in Israel just voted 49-35 to move forward with a controversial bill that would legally protect things like tefillin and public Jewish prayer, public minyanim in the streets, and treat interference, even minor bureaucratic obstacles, as possible criminal offenses. This bill, the bill, still has a long way to go, and now it goes to the committee before any final vote. Supporters say it's about letting Jews live Jewish in public. Critics say it's religious coercion and can force public places and even state-funded private offices to allow davening, to minyanim. Tucker Carlson went to Qatar and sat with senior officials there to bash Israel and praise Doha. He said, Israel's a completely insignificant country with no resources and 9 million people, and he asked, do we have to defend Israel? He claimed America gets nothing from Israel, only costs, and called Qatar and the Gulf states infinitely more important for the United States. He even spoke about buying a house in Qatar to show his support for them. Critics say this is upside down because Israel gives America real-time intelligence, joint missile defense like the Iron Dome, the Arrow 3 which we spoke about, cyber and high-tech help, and stands on the front lines against Iran so America's soldiers do not have to. Qatar, meanwhile, hosts Hamas leaders and backs Islamist movements while pouring billions into American universities, think tanks, and lobbyists in Washington. Tucker yells about foreign influence and America first, but he's very quiet when the money and influence comes from Doha to push pro-terrorist messages and propaganda funnels into America. Well, money that funnels into America for that kind of propaganda. After this, Qatar's foreign ministry posted online asking why Zionists, in quotes, get to control the United States if they pour in so much money. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino, I think is pronounced his name, I don't know. The Bureau's number 2 official right under Kash Patel says he will resign next month. This guy announced on social media, I will be leaving my position with the FBI in January. We don't know why. A federal appeals court just ruled that President Donald J. Trump's National Guard presence in Washington, D.C. can stay in place for now. The D.C. Circuit put a lower judge's order on hold so the troops can remain while the case keeps moving. D.C.'s Attorney General says this is only temporary ruling and not the final word on whether the deployment is legal. And yes, this fight looks like it's headed towards the Supreme Court. The 3 Americans that were killed in a terrorist attack in Syria returned home in a flag-covered coffin yesterday. Well, flag-covered coffins yesterday at Dover Air Force Base with President Donald J. Trump present for the ceremony. Trump called them great patriots and promised retaliation for the attack. The manhunt for the Brown University shooter is now in its 5th day, and investigators still do not know the gunman's identity. The attacker killed 2 students and wounded several others during a weekend exam review session on the Providence campus, and escaped through nearby streets. 5 people are confirmed dead after a corporate jet crashed and burned in North Carolina. The Casino 550 went down around 10:20 this morning in Statesville Regional Airport. It burst into heavy flames on impact. Local reports say 6 people were on board, and officials haven't given a final count yet. Flight tracking shows the plane turned back towards the airport right after taking off. The FAA and NTSB are still investigating. American President Donald J. Trump addressed the nation last night. Tonight, after 11 months, he says, our border is secure, inflation is stopped, wages are up, prices are down, our nation is strong, America is respected, and our country is back. Soon we will host the World Cup, the Olympics, and most importantly, we will celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Trump announces warrior dividend, cash bonuses for troops. U.S. soldiers are getting a massive cash bonus after President Trump announced a new warrior dividend during his speech last night. The president talked about his record of rebuilding the military before announcing that every service member will receive a special payout, a dividend. Alan Dershowitz, we mentioned it yesterday for those of you who listened to On Edge, is telling President Trump the Constitution might not actually stop him from going for a 3rd term. He says he told Trump the issue isn't clear, even though the 22nd Amendment is supposed to cap a president at being elected twice. Dershowitz says if Trump ever decided he wants to stay past 2028, the move would be to challenge it in court, obviously. And for now, the White House isn't saying Trump's doing this, just that people would be lucky to have him longer. A new poll is showing, speaking of, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC in other words, slightly ahead of Vice President J.D. Vance in a hypothetical 2028 matchup on a poll. And it's the first time she's on the top she's in the top in this head-to-head. The poll from the Argument and Vera site has it 51 to 49%. That's basically a tie because it's inside the margin of error. And just to be clear, nobody has announced they're running yet. So this is just early guessing, not a forecast. Nowadays, we're constantly chasing tomorrow before we even finish today, and it makes people stressed for no reason. So enjoy the moment. Take the good you have right now. Do the next right thing and breathe. B'chol yoim yeh b'eineicha kechadushim. That's basically it. President Trump has signed more executive orders in 2025 alone than he did in his entire first 4-year term. first four-year term. The president is bypassing Congress to push through his agenda on border and energy and trade. Finances. Let's talk about finances, shall we? Federal is going to slash rates 4 times in 2026, this coming year. A top strategist at Bernstein Private Wealth Management, Roosevelt Bauman, this is the name of this guy, says that the Fed could cut interest rates 4 times in 2026 alone. He says it would be to prop up the economy as things cool off, especially if the job market keeps softening. And if that happens, it could take pressure off a lot of borrowers, like people with mortgages, car loans, and credit cards. He also says smaller companies could pop the most because earn the most because they live and die on borrowing money. But here's the big point: the Fed itself is not talking like 4 cuts right now. The Fed's latest projections still show the median view is 1 cut in 2026. We already mentioned it several times here on Edge. And speaking of cutting rates, the Bank of England is preparing to cut interest rates as the British economy stalls. Update as of today. They did cut down a quarter point to 3.75 in a tight 5-4 vote. Officials are doing it because inflation has cooled and growth is pretty weak, and they're trying to keep the country from slipping into a real downturn. Inflation was 3.2% in November and still above their actual target. And the Bank of England is warning that the next cuts won't be automatic. Hezbollah is supposed to pull out and disarm south of the Litani River by December 31st, 2025, under the US-backed plan tied to the 2024 ceasefire setup and the Lebanese government promises, and with less than 2 weeks left, as of December 18th today, it's still not done. Israel keeps saying it won't tolerate Hezbollah's military setup in the south after that date, and it's signaling it may enforce it directly if needed. Yesterday, the Lebanese army acted on intel. Israel passed through the US-led monitoring channel, went into Tower Line, dug a site, and Lebanese sources say they found a Hezbollah tunnel, which is unusual because the Lebanese army rarely moves on Hezbollah like this. Israel also carried out airstrikes and drone strikes today, hitting what it says are Hezbollah sites and weapon storage. And as the deadline gets closer, things are getting more tense. The next few days are make it or break it moments. Either Hezbollah really pulls back with real enforcement, or this front slides into a bigger fight. Basically, do it nicely now, or we will do it loudly later. A quick word from our sponsors. Reb David Wanunu is your business coach. Call him 845-414-8100. Mention on Edge for a good discount. Again, mention on Edge for a good discount for all these companies I mentioned. So Reb David Wanunu will help and guide you on the right track to make your business a lot more money than you think it could make. Shawarma Delight. Tonight is Thursday night. They're open till very late. They sell yapchik, cholent, all kind of different things that Thursday night has to offer. So go to them. They're open till very late. You can find them off exit 14, literally a minute off the exit, or 2 minutes. Doesn't make a difference. Next to Bingo, 26 Spring Valley Marketplace. You can order it on sdny.store. And also mention on Edge for a free drink. YS Capital Group, if you want to borrow some money for an investment you have, 718-831-2168. We mentioned before the rate cuts. Well, they can secure your rate if you mention on Edge. And yes, 718-831-2168. Ask them yourself. They have a loan with no fees, no closing costs. Arrive Express, 845-622-1111 and 845-254-1111 from Monroe. If you want to build your company a good system, an app, a website, tied in all in one, the communication, whatever, the CRM, the whole entire spiel into one customized system, call Protobyte. 347-354-1237. Again, the number is 347-354-1237. Besmedrish Gavoya in Lakewood, BMG, as you all know it already, officially is expanding into Jackson after winning a $40 million bid to purchase a middle school. The Jackson Township Council accepted the yeshiva's offer. This purchase gives the yeshiva a massive new campus to help relieve severe overcrowding in Lakewood. Incoming Mayor, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani just named the first 2 big people who will run the city hall with him together. His name is Dean Fullahan. Is coming back as first deputy mayor. He held that same job already under Bill de Blasio, for those who remember. And Mamdani picked his campaign architect, Ella Bisgard, I think his name is, Bisgard Church, what an interesting name, to be his chief of staff. Okay, well, getting ready for another Bill de Blasio kind of mayor, New York, I guess. But it doesn't make a difference, it's fine. Same politician, different face, right? Facts of the day of Chov Ches Kislev today. It's interesting, actually. A man gets off the ground for the first time in history. Yes, the Wright brothers from Ohio fly a powered airplane for the first time ever. They go 120 feet up through the air. The whole flight lasts 12 seconds. The plane weighs about 600 pounds. And that short hop starts the age of flight. In other words, 12 seconds in the air and humanity never walks the same again. With that, my friends, have a wonderful and lechtige Chanukah, and we will see each other next time. And stay informed and stay on edge. Thank you so much for joining me.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.